Hi, this is Charmin Dow coming to you from the Empower Women's Conference, and I'm sitting here with my good friend Gloria Nealon of TriLink Global. We're going to be talking today about what Gloria's doing. She is one of my speakers at the next Empower Women's Conference, which is coming October 22nd to Orange County at the Irvine Marriott. Please go to our website and check that out. But in the meantime, let's talk about Gloria. Hi, Gloria. How you doing?
Hi, Charmin.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's been a while. Anyway, Gloria, let's talk a little bit. You were on Wall Street for a long time. Give us some background about you in your business career and what things have gone on in your life in regards to your career.
Okay. So I actually I grew up in Ohio, and I went to school to be an elementary school teacher.
Uh-huh.
And I did my first day of student teaching and came home literally in tears to my mother and said, this is not going to work. And my mom, being a good mom, said, oh, honey, just stick it out, right? You need to stay at least the whole semester. And by the end of the semester, then if it still doesn't work, then you can look into another career. And since that was really the only thing I'd ever thought I was going to do, I thought, she's right. I really should stick this out. And by my last day of student teaching, I came home and said to my mom, oh, this is definitely not going to work. I need a new career. And my best friend's mom, who I had known for many years through my church, she was an HR director at a bank. And it really was one of those things where that launched my career into finance by accident.
But did this woman become a mentor for you too?
She didn't, but it was more because my career really took off.
Uh-huh.
I ended up getting recruited to California.
Uh-huh.
And ultimately then I ended up on Wall Street.
Get a little closer here.
Oh, sorry. I ended up on Wall Street and spent almost 30 years in the asset management business. But it really was because of her.
That woman impacted you.
Exactly. And I think that's how God had his plan for me. And it's interesting because I really do feel like in my whole life, God has said, I'm going to always put you in situations that you're really not quite qualified for, just because I want it really to be because of me, and you can do things in my power, not your own. And as a result, honestly, I've had an extremely successful career that I could have never imagined otherwise.
Isn't that exciting?
It is.
Well, tell us, Gloria, you were CEO of Deutsche Bank USA. Tell us a little bit about that. That had been incredible, working with an all-men group of men on Wall Street. And here Gloria is managing $50 billion for Deutsche Bank USA.
Right.
So tell us more about being the CEO and some of the things that you ran into there.
Yeah, so I had spent my whole career in the asset management business, which was always male dominated, always the only woman on an all male management team. And it was interesting because when I went to Deutsche Bank, I really did think, oh my, what is this going to be like? Because not only is it a lot of men, it's German men.
Yes.
But I found actually that I liked it because they're very direct. And it made it easier to do business.
It was a different culture, though.
It was a different culture. And it was good culture. I mean, I really did enjoy it. And it was interesting because as the CEO of Deutsche Bank, I ran the private wealth management division for all of North America. And I was on 3 different management teams because there was lots of, different business lines that you had to be a part of. Mm-hmm. Like I was here physically in the US, so I had to be part of the US management team. Mm-hmm. But I was in a division that was run globally. So I was part of a global wealth management team. And then we had an exco that ran things all over the world. So I also had that role. And it was always all men.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because as part of this group, it was called Lead 200. It was the 200 top managers in the whole Deutsche Bank organization around the world. Mm-hmm. And we would get together about every 6 weeks somewhere in the world. Mm-hmm. And we would focus on a particular division of the bank and learn about it and talk strategically about, where it's going.
What
and
the
what
next
should
steps
we do.
were. Yes.
Yeah. And I've been going to, 5 or 6 meetings over a couple of years. And at this one particular meeting, they one of the divisions brought in a speaker
Uh-huh.
or a presenter, not a speaker, but a presenter who was a woman who was in that division. And I could see the whole time she's presenting, like she's keeping an eye on me. And like literally as soon as she got off the stage and they finished their presentation, she came like beelined it over to me and she said, "Oh my gosh, how does it feel to be the only woman in this wholly 200 program?"
And you never thought about that.
I didn't. And I looked around the room and I was like, I never noticed. Like, I honestly never noticed.
I had that feeling happen to me one time. I was at a conference and I looked around and I was one of 3 women in the entire room. And it was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
We have to be in the corporate world a lot more and more active. Our
Right.
gender does. It's exciting though. But it was good challenges. Did you ever find a time, Gloria, when you felt your Christian faith was impacted in a stronger way in your career? Did you find any, how does it work? How do you bring it into play? And what are you doing today with TriLink Global?
Yeah, wow, there's a lot in that question.
That's true. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, it's perfect. I'll try to make it concise. So, I've actually been a Christian almost my whole life. Like when I was 12, I accepted the Lord, and I would say my walk with the Lord was probably like many people. It's really strong at some times, and other times it was never not there. And I had made it a habit of spending the first hour with the Lord my entire career. And
that had to have a strong impact on your daily walk and in your business life, on
Yes.
making decisions and drawing from the Bible
absolutely.
and spending quiet time with God.
Yes. And it's funny because I would say more in my, the 10 years before I retired, before I failed retirement, but in those 10 years before, I would say I was consistent about it, but there were things that would happen where I'd go, oh, I just can't do it today because I'd have to get up at 2 o'clock instead of 3 o'clock in the morning. And every time I didn't do it, I can tell you bad things that happened in that day. And I do think it was because of my own ability to handle
rely on God.
And rely on God because I do think it's important that you have that set, like you set yourself every morning.
Absolutely. I find for my own self, and I want to tell people out there, that one of the most important things you can do in your business career is spend that time alone with God on a daily basis. It sets a foundation for the day going forward. And having that prayer time and that Bible time really, as Gloria pointed out, really changes the aspect and the way the day goes. It makes it so much easier to deal with. You have more peace in your life, more inner joy when you have that quiet time with God on a daily basis in your career. And sometimes for me, that's in the middle of the night, as with you, Gloria, because that's the only time I can find. I'm like, okay, Lord, I can't sleep, so I might as well spend some time with you. And I get up quietly, put on a robe, and take my Bible and go into the other room and spend some quiet time with God. Then I go back to sleep a little later. But you just try and juggle everything around as best you can. But
you do.
But even if it's just 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if it's just that time, just reading. And one of the books that I find a great book is called Jesus Calling. That's a wonderful book. You like it too?
I read that every morning.
I know.
I end my devotions with it.
Really?
Because of the way that it's written. It's such a great book. The way that it's written, you do feel like Jesus is talking right to you.
Absolutely.
And it's a year-long devotional.
Closer. Yeah.
And I can't tell you, I'm sure this has happened to you, how many times. I've read it now for like 5 or 6 years.
Yes.
And there are times
it fits that day.
Yes,
so
and
specifically.
I could swear I'd never read it before.
I know.
And you just kind of go,
in fact,
wow.
That happened the other day with my husband. He had read, and he comes walking. I'm getting ready to leave on a business trip, and in fact, this business trip. And he said, "Oh my gosh, look at this scripture today from Jesus Calling." And it really fits what we're going through because we were thinking of buying some property.
Yeah.
And he says, "This totally fits. I feel at peace now. I feel at peace." I thought, oh, that's really nice. You know, that's that's the way it works though, right?
It is.
For your career. Have you ever had a crisis of faith, Gloria, in your career?
Yes, but it was after I retired. So I had, as I said, I had this really successful career on Wall Street. And ultimately, after a particularly big success, this was with Deutsche Bank, I had a moment where I was celebrating this success with my management team. Walking back to my apartment that night, I really had this moment where I thought, wow, is that it? I mean, like, I really want my life to have more meaning.
Right.
And so ultimately, that was in April of 2005. At the end of 2005, I retired really to say, okay, Lord, I want my life to have more meaning. Like, I really want it to be more about you. And I assumed that meant that I had to give up everything else and either go be a missionary or a pastor or something.
I think everybody thinks that too.
I know.
And in reality, and just to take a break from that for a second, your job today, your career today is right where God wants you, and you can be a missionary in your own job. That's what a lot of people don't understand about walking with the Lord. It's where God has placed you, and God has placed you in these particular job functions that you've done in your career, and that is your mission field, and that's what you discovered in this moment, right?
I discovered it after 2 years of wandering in what I call my desert. That was my crisis of faith, because I felt like I stepped out in faith and said, okay, Lord, I'm going to do whatever you want me to do. And I was searching, like I was diligently searching. You and I took the master's program together during that time.
We did.
And I was doing Bible studies, and I was probably spending, a couple hours every morning on my knees. And I had never spent more time with the Lord, and really was searching, like, Lord, what's my purpose? What do you want me to do? And I know there was a lot of character things he was working out with me in that time, until I had this 2-week period where all of these people in my life, random people, reached out to me and told me stories of how I had touched their lives over my whole career.
Oh, my goodness.
And many of them were Christians that I didn't know it, but how I dealt with business, or how I shared my faith in a little situation had this huge impact on their life.
Wow.
And through that process and a number of other things, I really felt like the Lord said to me, Gloria, business was your calling. That's what you were, exactly where you were supposed to be.
That's your mission field.
That was my mission field.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so basically, after that, it took me a while to go, wow, that's cool. I could do what I love.
Yeah.
And still have a life for God.
Right.
And it was freeing. I mean, it was just this wonderful
big
thing.
Weight lifted off, because now you knew what your calling was. I think I went through that similar thing. I know my calling right now is in speaking and writing books, and I love writing my blogs, which, by the way, go to our website, www.empowerwomensconference.com, and pull up some of the blogs. I write weekly blogs on there to empower yourself, empower you. And just this last week, I wrote, find your strength of character. And these blogs will help you in your business career and finding success in where you're trying to figure out where God is calling you, just like Gloria did. Now, Gloria, how did you end up starting your impact fund, which is kind of like a hedge fund, but explain it a little bit better, and you can, in simple terms.
Yeah. So since I loved investing and I'd spent my whole career doing that, I wanted to find a way to marry my gift of investments and investment management with this desire I had to have a positive impact on the world. And one of the things that I firmly believe is that capitalism has much more ability to solve social problems in a much bigger way. Let's put it that way. It has a bigger ability to solve social problems than aid and philanthropy can do alone. And
that's a really powerful statement when you think about that.
Yes.
Think about that. Capitalism can solve more problems than aid and philanthropy can do alone. That says a lot right there about what you're doing.
Absolutely. And it is all that that's what we're doing. We're using capitalism and proving that investors don't have to give up investment return to do good. Basically, it's how the companies that you invest in, making sure that they're good, ethical, solid companies that care about the world, care about the community, and hold them accountable.
So you're talking about really making an investment with a conscience.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
So by
It
making
is.
a TriLink Global is an impact fund or
A firm that
firm
that creates funds.
that creates funds for people to invest in.
Yep.
But investing with a conscience. That's a very unique type of fund. There's not many out there like that would even
Right.
even have that as their banner.
Yes.
So-
and it's been it's similar to what I did my whole career, but it's been really fun, and the way we can see that we've impacted lives is wonderful. I mean, I feel so blessed to be able to do what I'm doing, and
Well, Gloria, you
It's fun.
travel all over the world, correct?
I do. Yes.
Okay, so in traveling all over the world, what kind of investments are you making in those travels? Because I noticed in your lobby here, you had some artwork done in Africa, Southeast Asia. I'd like to know, what are some of those investments where you feel you're making lives better in other countries for women or for men and women, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I would say we focus on, we don't have a particular focus on women, although one of the things that we do care about is, do they employ women? What are their policies towards employing any minorities? So we make sure that they don't discriminate. That is one of our screens.
Yeah.
And then the types of companies that we invest in are in all different kinds of sectors and industries. And we do look for companies, though, again, that want to be able to create impact in their community in some way. And one of the investments that I love that we've made is in a mine remediation company that actually their whole business model is cool. And I learned about a company here in the US that's very similar, that is just getting going. But basically, you think about old abandoned mines.
Yes.
The reason the mining companies abandon them is because they'd have to clean up the land. And it's expensive to do that. They
Right.
have to make sure they get everything out from an environmental perspective.
Yes.
And so often properties get abandoned. And this particular company has a technology that they can go in and process the dirt, and it's called tailings. So
I
you
know
what
about
tailings-
that. Yes, actually, I visited a risk and didn't write their insurance, but I learned all about how you clean the dirt.
Yes.
They clean the dirt, which
clean
sounds
the
like a
dirt.
funny term when you think about it. But that's what they're doing. They're making the environment much better where that
Right.
mine was.
Exactly. And out of that, depending on the kind of mine it is, then you can get actual minerals and stuff that you can sell.
Oh, how
And
fabulous.
so those are the tailings. And so the whole business model for making money, because we only invest in profitable companies, the key to sustainability is profitability. So
That's because you're an
make
investment
sure-
company.
Exactly. So basically, this company sells the tailings, and then that's their cash flow
Wow.
to be able to run their company, right?
Yeah.
And so what they do is they lease the land from, it's usually been escheated back to, like here in the U.S., it would be the state.
Yes.
And then so they would lease the land, they would clean it all up, and then they basically give it back.
To the land for natural resources?
Yeah, so in this, or for some projects. So in this case,
In what
they're gonna-
country were you?
South Africa.
South
They
Africa.
clean it up, and then it's going to be donated to use for low-income housing.
Oh,
And,
wow.
Yeah, so they have like all kinds of positive impact. And it's really because this company cares about the community and cares about
And what they're trying to do.
right.
For the future. That is wonderful. Well, we have to watch our time. We're doing okay. We have a few more
Yes.
questions. So what were some of the obstacles you ran into when you were starting TriLink, your own company, because you basically started this company from scratch?
Yes.
So did you have to get partners, or how did you do it? Because there's a lot of young women out there saying the same thing. I want to start my own business. I want to do this. How did you come about the fact that, did you need partners? How do you pull this together? How did you pull TriLink together? And what you now have the idea in your mind that what you wanted to do. Now, how did you make it happen?
Yeah. And it's a great question, because I think this is a good lesson for us as women. And I do think it's unique probably to us as women. Even though I'd had this very successful career, I didn't have the confidence that I knew exactly what to do. Because as women, we believe that we need to be armed with everything to be able to have that confidence. And so I thought I needed a partner. And I I really do feel like the Lord was trying to keep me from making that mistake because it turned out to be a mistake. But I kept saying, oh no, but I don't know how to do this. And
that's where God was stretching you, like,
exactly.
oh, Gloria, you got to trust me.
You got to trust
I'm going to
me.
take you in your career into a whole new level, and if I can be your partner. See, remember
Yes.
in the Bible, when God's feelings got hurt when Israel wanted a king, and the Lord said to Samuel, but I'm their king. Yeah, it's not you, it's me they're hurting. And that's the same thing. What you were experiencing, a very similar thing. Instead of trusting God, you were trusting another person.
Yeah, isn't that? I never even thought about that's a great analogy, Sharman.
Yeah.
I mean, a great analogy because it is what happened, and God said, "Okay, I'll give you what you want." And then it turned out not to be such a good thing.
And He warned them. He warned them, if you're going to get a king, he's going to take everything from you, and he's going to do all this. He's going to take your best sons, your number one sons. He's going to take all your cattle, your best cattle. And God warned Israel not to have a king, but they still demanded a king, and and their king was Saul, and he ended up being a disaster. But then God got a hold of the right king, which was David, who was a man after God's own heart, which was lovely. So then you found out that God wanted you to do this all alone.
Yes. And by then I was like, yeah, I totally get it. A number of things happened. And I learned a lot through some really difficult circumstances. But I really, literally, every single day, still today, I get up and I go, okay, Lord, today, just show me what you want me to do today. And that's not to say that I don't have plans or
schedule.
Of course I do. You have to plan what you're doing, but you've got to give it to the Lord and be willing to say, okay, what if something different happens today?
Right.
Then you got to be willing to call on the Lord and let him do that. The other thing that I did, which I would say has been fabulous, is, and this really goes to when Joshua finally got to take the children of Israel into the promised land. Basically, after they got there, the Lord said, okay, I want you to take the heads of all of the tribes and each one take a rock and build a memorial, by the river that shows as a memorial to say, this is what, remind yourself in your future generations that this is what I did for you.
Yes.
And so I started keeping a spiritual markers journal, keep it in my purse. And every time something big happened in my company, this was all about TriLink, I would like a mirror where I really can go. This
you made
was a miracle.
Your own memorial stone.
I did, and I would
fabulous.
Write it so that when I needed that encouragement, I can just pull it right out of my purse and go.
And
okay,
this is
Lord.
And this is something that you out there can do too as well. You can make your own memorial stones. I keep a journal myself on a daily basis. I write out scripture and then I write my thoughts and meditate about it. But making milestones in your own life, in your career, when you're setting your goals, that you've accomplished something, write it out and keep it in a journal. So you have reminders when you're feeling weak in your faith or you're saying, oh gosh, nothing's really happened lately. And then, Gloria, I'm sure you referred to those memorial stones many times.
I sure do.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. So where is TriLink today, and what's your future, and where are you going with TriLink?
Yeah, so we've grown quite a bit since I started the company in the end of 2008, and it's funny. You've probably heard
which has got to be the worst time in the world to start a company in capital
markets. Exactly. And what's really funny is now we're doing well, and we have plans to grow to more funds and different impact, and it's very exciting. But it's funny because everybody always goes, "Oh wow, you're this great success," and I go, yeah, or they'll make a reference to it's like quick or something, and I go, oh yeah, it's been like a 7-year overnight success.
Yeah,
I mean, it certainly was not quick.
Just lost our connection. Okay,
another piece of advice would be, or wisdom, whatever it would be. Everything always takes longer and costs more.
Oh, it
right?
does.
In everything we do,
yes.
We were just talking about that with you even getting all this together. It all takes longer, it costs more, and you look at it and go, how could you do it different? I don't think you can. I think you
have to go through the fire.
You do.
And when going through the fire, God transforms your character. He grows you. He makes you stronger so that the next step you have to take, when it's even harder, you're ready for it because you've taken little steps to get to that place,
Yeah.
correct? So TriLink today has how many employees?
Oh, 25.
25 employees, and you're investing how much now?
We've invested $300 million.
Oh my gosh.
In, let's see, 14 different countries in 47
That is
different companies.
awesome. And that is from 2008.
Well, yeah, 2013 is when we really started.
And really went nuts.
When we got money
Yeah.
to invest.
Yeah. And then when you came to that conclusion that you could do this all alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you are the founder
Yeah.
and CEO and chairman of the board
Right.
of TriLink Global.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Gloria, for your story. And
Can I just make one quick
Yes, please,
quick
talk right
plug
into the camera.
for the conference?
Yes.
You know, Charmin is an amazing, successful woman herself. She has lots of things that you can learn from her. One, by reading her book, but also by coming to the conference. And I would say that's probably one of the most meaningful things for any woman who is trying to have a successful career in anything.
and juggle with balance. The Empower Women's Conference will help you see your job as your mission field, will help you create balance in your personal life, because we've all been there. We've had to create balance. Gloria, you have a wonderful family, a son and your husband, and it's hard to balance and juggle all that, but
It
you're
is.
able to do. But we're going to be talking about those things at the conference.
Yeah.
And then also the other aspects of things you can learn are going to be so tremendous at the conference. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And anything else you want to say, Gloria? One last tidbit of...
I don't think so.
Okay,
Just
go.
good to see you all.
Good to see you all, and thank you for joining us.